on Gadigal country, and I welcome everyone from all the various places in which they've virtually connected into this webinar today. I'll be presenting the Tags for Tons, Unlocking Your Farm Potential. The agenda for today's webinar is to provide an overview of AgriProve's soil carbon projects and some of the progress we've seen across the portfolio to date. But the main agenda item for today is to walk through Tags for Tons and how this initiative is helping AgriProve's carbon building community unlock their farm's potential. So Tags for Tons is an all-in-one hardware and insight-led software that unlocks actionable real-time data for optimized herd management, pasture productivity, and soil health. Today, you'll also get a demonstration of this software, ReadyGraze, and we'll hear from one of our customers and advocate, Justin Costello, and his experience on his grazing operation in the Upper Murray. But for this call, I won't be diving into the project setup or how we implement projects specifically. If you're on the call live or watching this recording and would like to learn more about the specifics of how we run soil carbon projects or are interested in getting started, I'll provide a link with more resources with the option of booking a one-to-one call with a team. So I'll just provide that link into the Q&A now. So if anyone has any questions throughout the call, please use this Q&A function just to tap in your questions. And then if we'll have some time at the end to answer all of those. But hopefully you can access that book a call option if you would like to explore soil carbon projects further, or would like to download an information pack for your own reading. But as I kick off and get stuck into the presentation itself, I just wanted to give a summary of who it is that you're listening to today. So my name's Scott. I am the Business Development Manager here at AgriProve. My background is in ag technology, food supply chain, and I've done a lot of the work in my career to date has been across the red meat industry. I'll turn to Justin now for a quick intro, but also Justin, if you could please tell me a bit about your operation and a bit about your story.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Justin Costello. We're located in the Upper Murray, which is in northeast Victoria. Basically, we've been actively participating in a carbon project with AgriProve for probably the last 5 years. And we currently run an intergenerational family farm and also run a small business in Corryong as well. Part of the farming attributes of what we've been doing is we found that partnering with AgriProve was essential to move forwards with anything to do with carbon, and along the way we've been able to get very good insights on our herd management, and we've been fortunate enough to be participating in the Tags for Tons program at the moment. We currently run a basis of 350 breeders plus 150 joining females, and our nature of our business is actually turning off say 350 yard weaned animals every year plus joined females. So that's basically our business. We predominantly run Angus genetics, which are sourced from King Island and Merridale Angus, and yeah, we do a cross or back cross sort of situation with sires and dams that way to keep our production and animal management going forwards. Yeah.
Great, that's awesome. And for today's webinar, we'll be jumping into a bit of a use case of Tags for Tons and how this has worked from Justin. Justin, I'll invite you in to add any thoughts as I go through, but I'll give an introduction to the whole Tags for Tons concept, what it is, and really get quite specific about several scenarios and how this helps with managing herds and grazing operations through to pasture utilization and ultimately soil carbon performance for a project with AgriProve. So I'll move next to basically a bit about AgriProve for those who are on this call and may not be familiar with what we do and what our mission is. Soils represent the largest terrestrial sink for carbon. So small increases in soil carbon has a potentially large impact on reducing carbon in the atmosphere. Our goal as a business is to mainstream a farmer-led commercial model of soil carbon farming, turning farm operations from a source of carbon into a sink for carbon. And we'll hear from Justin in some of the ways in which he wants to tell that story to his customers. All of our projects follow the 2021 soil carbon methodology to generate high integrity ACCUs or carbon credits, a core validation of farm management practices that help boost soil carbon. I was speaking to Justin earlier today, and he mentioned that he sees climate change as one of the biggest risks to agriculture, and I think this provides a nice why behind his carbon project with us. Our mission is to help bring about that farmer-led transformation using soil carbon to both mitigate and adapt to climate change. Here I'll just give a quick overview of our soil carbon project portfolio to date. Our projects are spread across the higher rainfall regions of Australia, predominantly located in the eastern seaboard, with clusters of customers in southwest WA and in Tassie as well. All of the dots on this map represent innovative farmers that we work with, and they want to ultimately implement carbon farming practices and measure their progress in line with their production systems. To date, we've seen 59 measured increases of soil organic carbon, and we're busily in the process of crediting these customers with their very own ACCUs. To qualify for a soil carbon project, you need to have about 40 hectares or more of eligible farm area. Our customers are anywhere from 40 hectares through to several thousand hectares in land size, be in an annual rainfall zone of 600 mil or more on average, and commit to implementing some of the carbon building activities on farm. Again, if you're interested in learning more, please take a look at the link I posted in that Q&A, and we'd be more than happy to follow that up. So Tags for Tons is an initiative born out of necessity to help producers gain insight to their farming operation and carbon project in a hands-off, easy-to-use format. AgriProof has introduced a world-first carbon credit marketplace where producers can opt in to use future-generated carbon credits or ACCUs to purchase technology on farm. This marketplace sings out a lot of similarities to a Qantas frequent flyer program where individuals can purchase tech and toys with Qantas points. So Tags for Tons represents the first of what we believe is going to become a marketplace where producers may want to use their ACCUs generated from their soil carbon projects to enhance their technology or their operation. But Tags for Tons goes beyond just a simple marketplace. It's a program that represents practical on-farm solution for graziers to gain insight to their herd, pasture, and ultimately drive soil carbon performance. So what are the tags and what's this all about? It's probably a question you're wondering. This is a picture of David Smith, the founder of Sarah's Tag, and Matthew Warnkin, the founder of AgriProof. Sarah's Tag offer the best-in-class satellite ear tag monitoring for livestock, not just cattle, but all livestock, using unique monitoring technology to determine livestock behavior and movement tracking. AgriProof are offering the software solution, which we've named ReadyGraze, to visualize these insights, as well as provide a funding tool to facilitate adoption, hence the Tags for Tons. So what is Tags for Tons in a nutshell? Sarah's Tag provides the hardware, AgriProof provide the software and the funding mechanism. So this is a world-first collaboration that bridges the gap in grazing management and building soil carbon. So basically, Tags for Tons digitizes herd management, and there's a couple of tiles there on that slide that talk to some of the things that Tags for Tons does for the farmer. One of the biggest standouts for me is that it significantly reduces record-keeping requirements. These satellite ear tags for stock record data automatically and basically keep the administrative side of collecting a lot of this data and technology to a minimum. But there's also big impacts on, as we'll hear from Justin in a moment, on how he's running his operation and validating his decision-making on farm using these tags as a decision support tool. So I'll just jump out into a basically an overview of the platform. And I won't spend too much time here, but I'll just jump through a few bits and pieces. So this ReadyGraze platform is available on web browser and mobile. Any web browser would be fine. As you log in, we basically get a view of your farm map. We can easily set up your farm map if you've already got digital paddock boundaries, having used other mapping solutions or software. And then you'll see basically we'll be able to jump into your farm down here in northern Victoria. On the left-hand side, you'll basically get a toggle menu of a number of different icons we can look at: herd insights, movement tracker, some tag data if you want the raw data of these Ceres tags as they go about the farm, any alerts for perhaps tags having more than usual activity or animal husbandry issues. And then also we may look at some more boundaries and tenses as well. But I'll just jump into the herd insights specifically. And what I've done is pulled up basically a couple of examples of Justin's second calvers and his third and fourth calvers, two different mobs he's looked at tagging with the Ceres tag, and we're visualizing that data now on the ReadyGraze platform. To me, at first sight, you can see that these second calvers have had significantly greater feed intake than compared to the third and fourth calvers over this 3-month period. And at the top, you'll see various percentage trends going down and up. And this is compared to the previous 3 months that we'd looked at before. So I wonder, when I look at this information, what other sources of information Justin may be using to interpret a lot of this, and we'll jump into a moment into some of the other insights. But for me, Justin, how has this tool provided you with, I guess, some insight to what's happening on the ground? And I guess, first of all, why tags for tons?
Okay, it's quite funny. I'm just sitting in my lounge room at the moment, and we've decided to move the second calvers, and they're actually running straight past the room that I'm sitting in. So they're just in training because we've actually had to limit the movement due to the rainfall. So anyway, probably the introduction. This is the tags that we're inserting into the ears of the animals. We've chosen to do a cohort model for our herd. So basically 3 mobs of cows, 3 mobs of calf or followers. So along the way, we wanted to try and identify and validate some of the things that we're seeing, but actually look at the data sets behind it so that we can actually make some better decisions on farm about infrastructure, and also on farm to sort of smooth out, our shortcomings, in feed deficit, or improving joinings. So basically we have a autumn calving herd, so this is our real push for animal health at this point of time. So we really want to be making sure the animals are in peak condition for joining, so that we have a shorter joining period for a better production outcome. So basically we inserted the tags pre-Christmas. They were in over the summer period, and then we've been rolling out the tagging of the followers or the calves at calf marking. I tried to do it at birth, which is really a total insight, but I just found that probably at birth, just the size of the tag is a potential issue because of the weight of this tag in a calf's ear. But these are learnings that we're having. So over the summer period, because we were in a cell grazing sort of setup, we really were able to identify our need for water and shade. So that was a really quick learning, and we saw the heat map. The heat map was really insightful. It gave us an ability to recognise that the size of our troughs were limited, and basically we've gone in a bit of an infrastructure stage at the moment, so that we can go back to when the grass grows and the rain comes. They'll be able to actually achieve good drinking water at the right time, because they work in a herd or a flock mentality. So you want to make sure that every animal gets a good drink, and has good access to shade in the heat. So yeah, it's actually been quite interesting. It's early days from a perspective of what is the co-benefit on farm, because it's a lot of data, and probably you need to sort of look at your targets and goals for your animals or your herd, so that you can actually identify what you're looking at. So yeah, that's basics at the moment.
That's great. And I think what's interesting is that within a 3 to 6 month period, with my experience in, I guess, the technology and software space, that sort of time is expected to gain some insight. And I really anticipate that the longer we gather this data, the more information and the more insight you'll have on basically your goals of making sure that animals have what they need to be as productive as possible and your pasture is utilized as best it can be, with the view that it will help improve soil carbon outcomes in the long term. So it sounds like there's some very specific goals that you're looking to achieve in the short term, with the view of long-term outcomes in terms of the general production of the entire business.
Yeah.
You mentioned the heat map, and I've pulled up an example here of 2 Ceres tags, and I'll play this through, and it represents, I think, what you were talking about in terms of that heat map functionality. It's a small example, and I'll jump in and I'll zoom in a little bit further as we go. But what I'm noticing in this heat map trend is that a lot of stock are spending time around tree lines, near water, and this potentially has implications for the way that pasture may be utilized. Justin, to this very specific point, I suppose your background has been pretty open to using technology and systems to manage your production systems. I guess, how has Tags for Tons and this Ceres tag provided an additional layer of decision support?
Yeah, really where I was trying to get to is to probably go to that next stage on the carbon journey, is how to actually communicate it to the marketplace, so that I have access to markets for, value adding. So it's very, cliche, I'm part of a carbon project, but at this point in time, they go, what does it mean to your farm day to day? So this is a step in the right direction, or a process for me to actually pull this out, show them the heat map and say, well, yeah, this is part of our carbon project. This is actually validating, the pasture growth, and also our program day to day. And you can see, if you look just at the house there, if you go back to that wider shot, we've got a rest area around the front of our house, and you can see that the cattle haven't gone in there. So this is also part of establishing perennial pastures. So you can see they just haven't accessed that area, and then bang, they go into the next paddock. They went through the paddock, but then now, as we're looking at it, they've just moved today, and they'll be around that front of the house. So again, we're trying to look at what works and what's actually happening to the animal, because we need to manage animal movement, but we also have to tell the story so that we can actually get a profit out of what we're doing on farm. So it'll enable me to make better decisions around potential seed varieties, potential tree plantings in the next 3 to 5 years, which is really important.
Definitely. And I suppose these insights may change season to season. I guess the big call out here is when weather conditions or production outcomes are changing, these insights may provide an extra layer of decision making. I suppose when it's hot, what are animals doing? When they're gaining weight, what is it that they're doing? When they're losing weight, what is it that they're doing? I suppose these insights for me are just another layer of that toolkit that farmers can use to help make sense of what's happening on the ground. By no means is this replacing any other solution, but I think it adds an additional complementary layer to the thinking.
It gives you that ability to pressure test your program. Okay, so what you can see with the heat map, but also about your pastures after they've left, and that time to regenerate. So it's about days in paddocks, and also then hopefully seeing that improvement in the soil carbon as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think we're making really good time, but just to come back to, I guess, some of those key value proposition, it really is case by case. What I've seen with our lighthouse farmers who have taken this ready graze solution on is that it really depends on goals and targets, and it really depends on tagging strategies. So what we're looking really at the main spread here is adding an additional layer of monitoring livestock health, animal husbandry, and just really seeing what's happening without necessarily handling animals. So it provides that additional layer without necessarily handling stock. We can see what's happening from a performance metric standpoint. So you'll notice there that the pasture feed intake algorithm that the Ceres tag actually captures is really quite accurate. And off the back of that, we can estimate methane production. It's a mobile enabled software, so you can check it on the go. But I think what's interesting is that this is something I see may help with compliance and record keeping. It's automatic. So if you do have that LPA or JBAS, or potentially even that EU audit coming up, this may provide an extra layer of irrefutable data to how you're managing your operation and putting the best foot forward from that perspective. And how does this all really relate back to your soil carbon project? Better production leads to abatement of emissions, which helps produce those carbon credits for your project. So there's definitely a whole linkage here of a holistic way of managing your operation case by case, and it's something that AgriProve's really excited to be able to offer.
Yeah, look, basically from where we are in this early stages, it's been able to give us part of the solution for our long-term outcomes. So being 5 years into the carbon project, we're starting to build ACCUs, and we probably wanted to sort of relate it a little bit more to our production or our productivity on farm. So this gives us those insights to have active conversations on farm around the table. So I've got 4 children. They are, really keen to get into farming, but they sort of shirk on the day-to-day job. So moving the cows, they want to sort of look at the technology benefits, and this really gives them the ability to have insights to tell their friends, to tell their cohort, this is what's happening on my farm. So, they've bought in on it, which is really good. And I really feel that connection with the next generation comes from more information. This is part of extending your family business a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, and I guess my ag technology background, the two value propositions I see here is that a soil carbon project provides that data as it relates back to your soils and their performance. And this Tags for Tons initiative provides that production insight as well. So we're looking at really attributing your management practices as they relate back to not only the end commodity for the farmer, but also the long-term outcomes for carbon sequestration into the soil.
I think it really, like a lot of people, when you've joined a carbon project, you need to have an understanding of where you're at with your day-to-day practices. And that's what we found when we were registering for the ACCUs to be issued. So this will give you a lot more insights for when you have the government audit, and it'll give you a better layering to actually meet the requirements for the auditor and the process of issuing the credits. So the more information, the more people that are buying in, it's actually a better outcome on farm. So you don't feel like a lighthouse, you feel part of a collective, which is a nice thing as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the where to next is ultimately being able to communicate this information to your buyers. The buyers, the end consumer, down supply chain. These are the ones that are probably asking those questions of where their food's coming from. Is it produced sustainably, and how was it done? And I think this provides another layer of co-benefit to looking at all of this apart from the day-to-day operation of your business.
Yeah, so we were able to tag some of the calves early days, be really in contact with the AgriProof team. Dylan is a major part of that behind the scenes in the tech area. We named one of the calves Baby Dylan. It's quite funny, the kids quite often go out to see if the tag's still in the ear. It's sort of like chasing Easter eggs. So they head out on the motorbikes and try to understand where he is. But again, it gives you a little bit more connection to your production. Again, we're not in it for a short-term game. It's long-term outcomes is what we're looking at. And we want to sort of try and improve our property and give that ability that it's sort of like superannuation. We're reinvesting in what's actually happening day to day. So those insights give us an ability to have really good conversations on improvements or infrastructure outcomes that will actually make it a better farm to manage or to be part of. Yeah.
That's awesome. And Justin, well, I mean, I think just to summarize what you've mentioned there's a lot of short-term and long-term outcomes that you're looking to achieve as a customer with AgriProof. And I think this value add offering with Tags for Tons helps that journey. If I could summarize a bit about what this actually looks like. So what are the nitty-gritty behind the details of this Tags for Tons offering? What we look at, and I'll just run through a couple of details here. Tags for Tons offers the ability to get started on this whole program, tagging and software ready graze for free. Basically what it looks like is a starter pack, which includes 24 packet tags, an application kit, tethers and pins, and you only need one starter pack with additional boxes of tags, looking at only the tags there as well. A tagging rate that we recommend, you do not need to tag every animal. We see anywhere from 1 box per 100, which is 24 tags per 100 animals, so 1 in 4 roughly. More tagging has been common or less tagging has been common. It really depends on goals and targets for what you'd like to get out of the program, and we can help make some recommendations there as well. So basically, if you're looking to get started with Tags for Tons, you don't necessarily need to have carbon credits or ACCUs in the bank today. We offer a 5-year line of basically ACCU credits. So if you started a carbon project with AgriProof, you have 5 years to produce those carbon credits in order to basically secure that technology on farm. But otherwise, we offer a no interest cash option at the end of that 5-year period. So basically, that's all of the Tags for Tons in a nutshell. I'd imagine there'd be some questions coming through that chat here now. I'm very happy to help answer those. But as part of our webinar offering, what we would like to do is produce, anyone that's interested, I posted a link at the start of this call, a complimentary carbon ready report. And this carbon ready report outlines your soil carbon opportunity. It's an eligibility assessment for your property. It ultimately will produce a cost benefit, including potential ACCU yield. And that is really dependent on what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis. But really, it's based on all of the 700 projects that we've gotten up and running to date. We can provide some insight there as well. And as part of that offering, we would love to spend some time with the grazing operators on this call to consult on Tags for Tons and how that may add an additional layer of insight to your operation. So I'm just looking here at the Q&A. I can't see any questions coming through, but some common questions which I can riddle off as we get towards the end of this webinar is, what's the lifetime of these SARES tags? So the lifetime of the individual SARES tag is 3 years, and that's given the battery life. They're solar powered. So 3 years is the lifespan of those tags. You can redistribute those tags as many times as you like. So it's not a one-time use per animal. So they're actually linked to your NLIS or visual ID or RFID number on the animal. So there's a unique identifier that can be done. Perhaps another question that often is asked is, what does it take to implement tags for tons? Am I going to have to sit behind the desk for several days to set this up? We have a concierge service and implementation team that will take you through the onboarding. Basically, to summarize that, it's maps, mobs, and basically insights. That's our 3-step implementation plan. We recommend that it takes approximately 45 to 60-minute calls to get set up. And then we offer support on interpreting all the data that we've captured in between. So just looking at some of the questions now. So from Josh, how do you recommend deploying the tag? Start with 1 tag or more to start with. Is this how you started, Justin? Perhaps to interpret that, did you start with just 1 tag and saw how it went, or how did you go?
Oh, look, it's a very good question, and it was probably with the assistance of the AgriProve team, we decided to do our core 3 mobs and then set ourselves a few goals and targets. So we probably needed to identify the types of animals. So you have an understanding of a lactating cow or a female within your herd. So you think you know what you know, but this actually validates it. So we were able to identify it randomly, no favourites. So we went through and picked out 2 cows in each mob, and basically ran them down the race. It's tag placement is the key. You've got to have the right tag placement. I really think by doing that, you take a photo of the cow, you make sure you've got some information about the cow as well. So try and get as much data before you start. So the type, the dam, the sire, that sort of information, potential date of birth. We started with just a little bit of randomness there. So that was able to give first calving heifers, second calving cows, and the older group of cows as well, which is that we call them our favourites because they're on farm for a reason. But again, we wanted to see, and then by that information down the track, we'll be able to understand where we need to feed more or where we need to make sure they're not having any gaps within their growth patterns for calves, and also joining and stuff like that. So we'll be able to really, understand what our goal was at the start and then identify the targets along the way.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think, it really depends on that strategy and goals that the farmer has. We've seen a couple of different use cases across the customer base we're already working with. Some are very interested in that lifetime traceability of that animal, so they're tagging from birth. Others are interested in understanding what their bulls get up to, so they may only be tagging for a sample period of time as opposed to the lifetime. It really just depends, and we can help make those recommendations for you. I've got a question here. Are there plans to expand this product to other countries? Hello from the United States. So Sarah's Ranch Tag is actually a product that's available in the United States, and AgriProve is actively exploring the opportunities to work in the United States. At this stage, they're still very much exploratory in that discovery stages, but we could definitely manage your inquiry. We have a team member based in the US that's working with some of those early stage conversations. So I can put you in touch with Kendra, is her name, but Sarah's Tag and AgriProve would definitely be exploring the United States and other markets for these same reasons. I've got no other questions in this call. Justin, do you have any final comments before we wrap up?
Probably, it's a great opportunity to test your thoughts and what was done in the past. So this actually gives you that ability to validate moving forwards. So it's definitely a journey, and it's a bit of it changes the way you think about your cows, because there's a lot of information that it's giving you. But again, it's slow it down, make sure you put the tags in properly, make sure you have a process and an ability to communicate to get the information set up on the system. And then hopefully over the next, 6 to 12 months, we'll be able to then look back on the last 6 months. So that's really going to set us up, in a pretty good place for climate change, for, bad seasons or a failed autumn. We'll be able to look back and really sort of put ourselves to the, to the sword a little bit about stocking rates and our way of thinking of autumn calving versus spring calving. Yeah, but it's a really good system.
Yeah, great. And I've got 2 questions. How do the tags go in the cold? And I guess their battery life is 3 years based on what they've got in there. But yeah, how do they go in the cold? Have you seen any challenges with that?
The thing is, it has to get solar charge, okay? Sunlight, and also the placement. If you have hairy-eared cows, you make sure that you probably go around that hairy-eared cow, because we have had some shading issues or placement issues from the tag. But again, full sunlight's fine. Make sure the tag's fully charged before you put it in. And the team at AgriProof were very, very good in making sure that they were operational before we inserted them. So yeah, it's in the cold, not a problem. We've had -2 today. It works fine. We've had up to 42 degrees this year as well. So heat and cold's not a problem.
Great. Awesome. And I just have one final question here. How do you calculate the methane production that you report on screen? Great question. It is an estimate based on the pasture feed intake, which is calculated from these SARES tags. So it is an estimate only. Some of the conversations I've had with producers say they're interested in understanding the benefits or the outcomes that you may get from, say, a feed supplementation, and what that has an impact on in terms of methane production. So I think this gives you a pretty good guide as to how the methane baseline may look, and then you may want to validate that with direct measurement as well. Can you report stocking rate from the system? Yes, I think that's a good question. Where we're looking to go with the ReadyGraze platform from here, like any software, we have endless vision for where we see this going. And I think next is really diving into grazing diaries, grazing charts, looking at things like your stocking rate and carrying capacity, so that ultimately you're matching your stocking rate to the carrying capacity that you may have on the farm at any given time. We are looking at importing a whole lot of technology that gives you an understanding of ground cover, pasture availability, so that you're not only seeing what the animals are doing, but you know how your pasture is performing as well. So the vision for ReadyGraze is to become a really great decision support tool, not just for your stock, but also for your pasture and whole farm planning too. I suppose on that note, I think we've covered off a lot of really great information. If there are any questions, inquiries, or you just want to learn more, stay in touch. Shoot me a line, scott@agriproof.io. I'll shoot all of you a recording of this webinar. Coming up towards the end of this month will be a more specific deep dive on the project nitty-gritty. So how we set up projects, what do the projects mean, and we'll go through a deep dive into that stuff. But I hope this gave you a good overview of what Tags for Tons is about, and some of the value offering that we can provide to our customers that are looking to get started in the soil carbon journey. So thank you, Justin, for your time. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for everyone who put the time aside to join today.
Thank you.